All right, now we're going to try doing the alternative policy. That can often be tricky because what's an alternative to the policy that's being suggested? In order for us to do that, I will return to the sample policy analysis that I did, and down here at the bottom, you can see that I offered an alternative policy. In this case, the alternative would be the state would allow unlicensed healthcare providers to provide services as an alternative choice for patients. Fraud would still be a crime. Malpractice is still actionable, but voluntary behavior is through the free market. The idea would be that if someone wanted to go to a nurse that had a bachelor's degree, they could pay for it. And if someone was happy to go to a nurse who had the skills but didn't have the credential, then they should be allowed to do that as well. So whereas BSN and TED is very much a Keynesian government policy, this alternative is a market policy where you allow the self-correcting market mechanism then to tell people what what the advantages are of getting extra education and so forth. So health professionals who choose less education still can add to patient health in ways unrelated to the BSN degree. I invite you to read this whole thing, but for the video, I'm going to move through this, right? Then what I did is I created two graphs. In this particular graph, we have an alternative policy, and that's the New York licensed nurse labor market. If you had an alternative where a person could go to a nurse who wasn't licensed, right, then there'd be a demand for that and a supply of those services, which would bring the price down. So if someone said, well, I don't need to go to an expensive nurse, I just need someone to provide me some nursing services, it doesn't matter to me whether they have their bachelor's degree as long as they can give me good care. And then over here in this market, people who say, no, I think it's very important that my nurse have a bachelor's degree, and so I'm going to pay an extra amount for that. Then you'd have two choices in this alternative. You'd have customers or patients being willing and able to choose between either paying more for the licensed nurse or paying less for the unlicensed nurse, and that would be the alternative. These two graphs show a free market alternative operating parallel to the state-controlled market. Under the alternative system, the state only offers guidelines but does not prosecute healthcare providers without a license. Licensed nurses and unlicensed nurses would be both available. Patients would then have a choice of where to go for care. Some patients might choose the more expensive, more highly educated licensed nurse services. Other patients might choose a qualified but unlicensed alternative. By allowing the free market alternative, healthcare prices decrease and the amount of care increases. You get more healthcare for less money. So instead of all patients having to operate in this system, which would lead to high healthcare costs, as in earlier graphs show, here we'd have a parallel system where you'd have more care, but you'd have training for those special jobs. You think about it right there, although some aspects of the profession are becoming more demanding, many duties remain the same. You think about what a nurse does, and some of it is very technical and requires a lot of education and specialized training, and a lot of it doesn't. And this alternative would mean that no one has to get wasteful education. They'd only get education and training that was necessary for the job. Thank you very much.